Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night WrestleCast. We are on the eve of WrestleMania weekend. I'm here joined by my fellow co-hosts, the infamous vacant opponent, Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to talk about some wrestling. We haven't been here for a while now.
Awesome, awesome. And also joined by Bray Wyatt's advocate, Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing?
Doing good, Ricky. Yes, I'm very excited to talk with you all, but I don't know if I'm excited to talk about wrestling. So we'll see how the show goes.
That's definitely understandable. I will admit, as someone who um, is a longtime wrestling fan, but I have not really been into the weekly shows. I think that's something that I've been saying the last few WrestleCasts. So forgive me if I'm repeating myself here. But it's WrestleMania weekend, and it's something that it's the biggest weekend in wrestling all year, and so we're gonna dive into these matches. Start off with a fatal four-way tag match for the women's tag team championship. I am actually surprised that is the wrong match. I'm sorry. It's a women's tag match. Fatal four-way between Queen Zelina and Carmella, who are the reigning champions. They are defending against Sasha Banks and Naomi, Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, and Natalia and Shayna Baszler. I will admit this is the first time I've heard of this match. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't I forgot that there was a women's tag title. Boy, I'm digging myself into a hole here, but I'm gonna steal Rich's quote. This we could have done without this match, in my opinion.
Is it okay if I say something real quick?
Yes.
I agree 100%. But I will also say Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, and Sasha Banks, they should be in the women's title picture, not the tag titles picture. So it just doesn't make any sense to me. Rhea Ripley is possibly going to be, her and Liv Morgan probably going to win this match because Liv Morgan is somebody who they have had in the women's title picture, and she didn't win when she went against Becky Lynch. She also had her little confrontations with Charlotte, and again, they didn't really give her a title. I don't think they want to give her a world title yet, but I think Rhea Ripley, because I know she had an interview recently about wanting to elevate the tag division or whatever. So Rhea Ripley and her are probably going to win this match. But again, Rhea Ripley, Shayna Baszler, and Sasha Banks should not be in no tag division. They need to be in the singles division going after the women's title. And hopefully that's what happens after Mania.
I feel like looking at this now, like they don't have they just completely given up the women's battle royal, it seems.
Yep.
And so this seems like their substitute for that. This is how we're going to fit as many women into the card as possible. So we're going to cram them all into this highly congested tag match. That's the feeling that I'm getting. I don't know if you agree with that.
I agree. And let me also make another edit as well. Naomi should also be going after the women's title. So I don't know what this tag thing is. Yeah, what you said makes perfect sense. They want to try to fit as many women as possible in the match, and obviously, I like a lot of the people that are in this match, but I kind of feel like they should definitely be going after a much bigger opportunity than this, because these tag titles, they haven't really done anything with this particular title tag division. They haven't done anything with it, especially after Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler went their separate ways, and Nia Jax gets released. So I don't really care about the tag belts like that. But I'm happy for Zelina. I know that's one of your favorites. I'm happy for Zelina Vega, but yeah, I just don't see them retaining against these people here on this card. There's no way.
It's really wild when you think about it. Like Zelina went from being released, and some people thinking because she wanted to stay, doing her thing on Twitch, to being brought back and immediately winning the first ever Queen of the Ring, and now being a tag champion. Like they really pushed her very quickly, which I'm happy to see because she's always been a talented wrestler as well. But yeah, I feel like to heel tag team going up against three others, they're gonna drop it, and I think Sasha Banks and Naomi are gonna be the ones that win that. That's my prediction. Dana, what do you think?
I'm gonna am I muted? No, here we go. So I'm gonna say something that's out of pocket. This is exactly what Zelina deserves. Um, in the sense that, remember, she was released. There was that whole thing about a union, and then essentially, from my perspective, it seemed like they bought her silence, and all of a sudden shut down that union talk. It got to the point where, remember, there were actual politicians involved with the whole WWE getting a union, and it was an opportunity not just for her but for other people. And because she kind of shut that down, and I'm not saying because she did it there's no union, I just meant in general, you was gonna spearhead one thing and they essentially hired you back. She shut down those rumors really quickly and all that conversation with the Congress people really quickly, and then she won that little thing and she hasn't been relevant since. So pooh. In terms of this match, they've been really pushing Liv Morgan strong. And so I feel that it would be best for them to go with Liv Morgan, and she deserves this. Also, I wish WWE would acknowledge Naomi, even though they put her in this match. Remember when women used to mean something? Remember how they were years ago when we was like, look at the women's division, look at what they're doing, and no one else could really touch them. And when they would look at other, use AEW for example, are like not very good in their women's division, and they still have a lot more work to do. But remember when it was like they were unstoppable, the women of the WWE. Remember Divas Evolution, and then they was not divas anymore. They were just regular women, and it was this whole thing about look at what everyone can do. Remember Rhea Ripley when she was in NXT? What was it? She was only like 22, 23 at that time, and her cage match where she was just bodying people and were like dead, and she won it all. How amazing she was. Remember when Sasha Banks was really, really amazing? And you can throw Zelina in there. She existed. She played AJ Lee in the movie. And Natalia, just in general, I feel that they've done her dirty for so many years. She's like one of the best in the company. She trains all of the women and men. And Shayna, we remember how amazing Shayna was in NXT, and she was just like she was surpassing everyone, and we were so impressed at how far she grew. Just immediately, she took to this so well, and if you really look at it overall, all of these women have just been tossed to the side, so they just lumped them all together. And here's a fatal four-way: go do something, and it's for a tag division that no one cares about. WWE does not care about their tag team division. In all honesty, none of these divisions make any sense overall. But this thing just seems really sad. So I would have to probably go with Liv Morgan. The team of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, just because Liv has been being pushed, but we all know that really doesn't mean anything. In WWE, you get pushed one day, and then you're Queen Zelina the next. So I'm gonna have to just go with that. But overall, in general, it's just really sad. It's just sad.
So I just want to make a quick comment.
Mm-hmm.
I agree on everything that you said, Dana, 100%. I just want to make a comment and say Naomi, especially because I recall she had a really, really good match with Charlotte a couple weeks ago on SmackDown. They gave it enough time, everything. And then I look at this and I'm like, why is she not going after this world title. And obviously we know the answer to that is because you have Ronda Rousey come back. She's a star attraction. So she jumps to the front of the line. I know she won the Royal Rumble, whatever, but it's ridiculous that they have the same people they highlight in these main events. So I hope after this match is over, they correct this and you put some of these people in the proper division going after the bigger title, because it doesn't make any kind of sense. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
I was thinking about, you mentioned Naomi, how this might be a controversial take.
Uh-oh.
When we're talking about matches that don't belong on the card, I felt like there was one that belonged in the card that they prematurely got through months ago. They had a program with Naomi and Sonya Deville that they built for months. For months. And I thought, this is going to culminate in a match at WrestleMania. Sonya's going to have her first match back at WrestleMania. They're going to have the fans be foaming at the mouth to have Naomi shut Sonya up for good. What did they do? They culminated that match on the SmackDown before the Royal Rumble. They gave it the time that it needed, but they gave it away for free. Not even at the Rumble. It was on SmackDown. They should have saved that for WrestleMania. They would have had that built up for like half a year or however long that's been. Like WrestleMania should be about, if you're not going after titles, it should be personal. And it's hard to do a personal feud when it's something that was started only like a month or two out or whatever it is. Or if it's something like Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn, I don't care about that. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But Naomi versus Sonya Deville was something that at first I didn't care about until I did. Because it kept going. I'm like, you know what? Sonya's being a jerk. She really deserves to have some comeuppance. But I also want to see her wrestle again because it's been a while. And she's pretty good. And I want to see these two go at it. But I want them to do it on a big stage. That would have been a great WrestleMania match. Instead, Naomi's in this tag match. She may or may not win. Sonya's not even on the card. I think it's a damn shame. And Naomi was treated as a big deal years ago, and now she's mid-card or whatever it is, if there is a mid-card on there. Sonya's not even part of the equation, but that's a thing where you have two lesser utilized names and you can still make a big deal out of it, where they just didn't see it through all the way they should have. I felt that was a missed opportunity in my opinion. But when we're talking about the women's division and all that, there's plenty of very talented women in this division. They just not using them the way they should. They did, as Dana pointed out before, they built them up so well through NXT. They built them up in this like women's revolution that they did when Ronda's popularity was at her peak and everything. Only to squander it in the last couple of years. Why? Because Bruce Pritchard doesn't care about the division anymore. We're gonna go back to the Divas era of way of things. We're just gonna make it an afterthought. I mean, it's just ridiculous to me, and it's gonna sound hypocritical of me to say that as someone who started this off by saying I don't understand why there's a women's tag division, tag titles, I should say, and I still stand by that. I think it's overkill if you're not going to involve NXT in that. You know what I mean? So whatever. It's a shame, but yeah. So let's just recap before we continue. I have Sasha and Naomi winning. Dana has Rhea and Liv. And Rich, who did you have winning?
Rhea and Liv.
Real Live. Okay. Real Live probably make the most sense out of that. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I don't know. But let's go to match I just mentioned. An anything goes match between Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn. I am glad that this is not for the Intercontinental Championship as it originally was going to be, because what a waste that would be. This will just be your celebrity match. And yeah, Johnny Knoxville is going to win, which, and I'm cool with Johnny Knoxville because I loved, Jackass, and everything. But man, I like Sami Zayn too, and he's actually a wrestler. I know this is all sports entertainment and all this other stuff, but man, I remember Sami Zayn in NXT and how he was one of the most over baby faces in the industry at the time. How they built him up and all that. And now he's a comedy act. He's a joke. It's sad to see, but he's staying at the company. He's getting paid well. Not everyone can be at the top. That's just kind of how it goes. So, and you don't have Johnny Knoxville go on there just to lose. It's too obvious of a thing. So he's going to win. Blah. Rich, let's hear your thoughts.
Okay. This is definitely a match that shouldn't be on the WrestleMania card, in my opinion.
Yes. We're up to like 7 now, I believe.
Yeah, it's most of the matches. Most of the matches should not be on there. I think that Johnny Knoxville is going to win. The Jackass fans will win. And I think that Sami Zayn's consolation prize will be he will be right back in the feud with Ricochet the following show on SmackDown. Because Ricochet, he needs more opponents for his title. So I think that's definitely coming.
I actually forgot that Ricochet, 1, was at the company, and 2, that he's the current Intercontinental Champion. He's not even on the card. You have 2 nights, and you can't even have him on the card. He was, what was the report that he was the number 2 babyface on SmackDown recently, and you're not even going to have him on the card? That's pathetic.
And by the way, let me go ahead and add to that. The United States champion, Finn Balor, I thought he had an excellent matchup with Damian Priest. You have Damian Priest had that title for a while. Then he loses it to Finn Balor. The common sense thing would have been to have them have a match at WrestleMania. But I guess they decided no. Vince said, we're not going to do that. We're going to just have these guys in a battle royal on SmackDown. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Dana, what do you think?
I actually was a little bit torn, and then I thought about it, and I think that it's for Johnny Knoxville to win. But either way, I feel like they just threw away, an opportunity for just Sami Zayn to have a good match with anyone and to be in a feud that was good with literally anyone. But we decided to go with Johnny Knoxville, which again, Vince McMahon has to be booking this, or Shane or someone, because these are irrelevant people. And I'm sorry to Johnny Knoxville. I just mean in terms of people who are trending and of this generation. This is more for the crowd who is, much older and likes the whole Jackass thing, and they think that it's what's young and hip, like Logan Paul, but they're not really tuned in on what people really care about or who they care about. So I really feel that Johnny Knoxville is gonna win. I know that Sammy is gonna probably win because it makes more of the sense. I'm happy that for a title, but once they said it's no longer for a title, that I'm thinking Johnny's gonna win.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I think that the whole Johnny Knoxville being involved at all was tied into the promoting the Jackass movie that was coming out. And so, I mean, but I feel like the timing of it was that was what that was originally for, was just to promote the movie. But since it's close enough to WrestleMania, it's like, oh, let's have you stick around and you'll be the celebrity. I guess Bad Bunny wasn't available this time, so they went with Johnny Knoxville. I'm sure Johnny Knoxville will take a fascinating bump over the course of this match. That maybe a Shane McMahon type of bump. Um, we shall see. I hope he justifies his presence on the show some way. I'm not going to hold my breath though. But
Well, look at it in general of how they're booking Johnny Knoxville. It's very much Shane. That's very much Vince McMahon. Because remember, they had these horrible segments where they're like trying to do the stunts with each other. Remember that really stupid one where he got like the electrocuted. I don't know what you would call it, but they tried to Sammy tried to electrocute Johnny Knoxville, and like that weird, and then your body's just randomly convulsing, and it's just really bad and corny.
yeah,
That's not
yeah.
that's all Vince.
Totally. That's Vince. Vince would be the one to think about that. Like I still think about Dean Ambrose pulling out a TV and the thing exploding on him when the cable got loose. That's never happened to anyone. Vince thinks that's how. Vince still thinking that if that CCTV is still a thing as far as like the way surveillance cameras work, and that if you hit a monitor, that's gonna flicker and all that stuff. Some really old shit as far as how technology works. Vince is still stuck in the 80s. So mhm.
You know what I thought of randomly when you started talking about CCTV? Remember the whole underground fight club that they had?
Raw Underground, yeah.
Raw Underground, and then remember how they had the leader and the glitch thing? You remember how there was the hacker? So,
Yes, yeah.
Mustafa Ali. Here's the
Mhm,
random thing to go back to a previous thing that we discussed. Remember the secret opponent, the vacant opponent?
mhm.
It's Mustafa Ali.
I don't see
That'll
it.
get him to stop talking during Twitter, asking for his release. Boom.
No, they're just gonna freeze him out. That's what's gonna happen. They don't care about him. It's too bad because he's another highly talented wrestler that they're squandering. Uh, but let's move on because I'm getting depressed there. We have a singles match between Austin Theory and Pat McAfee. Now, McAfee is an interesting name because I remember his feud with Adam Cole and how impressed I was with his performance, being Pat McAfee. And because, like, yes, he is a former punter for the Indianapolis Colts, and we don't tend to think of punters as athletes, but Pat McAfee held his own and was very athletic. He was he towered over Adam Cole. He's a big guy, um, and so yeah, I have not followed that feud with him and Austin Theory. I don't care about it. Um, I am interested just to see how Pat does in the ring. I don't care about Austin Theory, to be honest. Nothing against him. I don't think that he's bad. It's just I don't see what Vince sees. If Vince is very clearly enamored with this young man, uh, I guess we'll have to see at WrestleMania what it is. But no, I think Pat McAfee wins this. Dana, what do you think?
Why is it always me going first? But I'm actually intrigued by this. I don't like Pat McAfee just as a person, like as if I hang out with
Mm,
him. He reminds me of that college freshman. He's just too much energy. I like my people dead and slow. No, but
like a
just
frat
overall,
boy.
he's a frat boy. He's always screaming. But you know what? I started paying attention to Pat McAfee. McAfee, and I think he has the it quality. And I really like him. And remember the interview that he did with Vince McMahon. Now,
Yeah.
granted, he's not going to be able to ask questions that we all really want to know. He touched upon some things, such as remember the Saudi Arabia thing, but just in general, he's very well rounded. And he is, what you would consider good material over at WWE. He's an athlete. I think he's dedicated in what he wants to do. He's very passionate. He knows his stuff, and everyone really likes him backstage. So, with that said, I initially was really rooting for him, and I think he's going to be really great, and I want to see this match. But then you have Austin Theory, and Austin Theory is basically now Vince's son. He's his second in command, and I don't know in terms of how that's going to work.
Mm.
But that's the thing. It's like, will Pat McAfee win this, or will Vince McMahon's son basically do this? They did the
Mm.
whole thing with him being in the office, and then that stupid skit with the egg, the golden egg, which was supposed to be a tie-in to Red Notice, but it was
Mhm.
still like, here, my son, you're the golden egg. So that, or maybe
It
Shane McMahon runs in and he's like, I'm the real son, and Pat wins.
you have me really thinking here uh because yeah, like you would think that like when you have like this is kind of like the Johnny Knoxville Sami Zayn thing where you have the obnoxious heel and the baby face who's not really a wrestler but who will get the come up who will give the comeuppance to the heel. But Austin Theory is the one they're pushing here. And it might make sense to have Austin Theory actually win if he's someone that they want to. When I say they, I'm talking about Vince. Wants to push to the moon.
That's what makes it even more complicated, because you can
Yeah.
argue that Vince is also pushing Pat. He went on his show. He did the whole little, I really like you, and like the little sad teardrop in the eye. I think that's just because he's old. But
Mhm.
like, he was really sympathetic, and he kept praising him, and he was saying, because of everything that you've done and how you just are in general as a person, I want to give you this opportunity. So he's really like uh, playing the fence on both of them. I don't know who's gonna win. They seem like
That
they're
makes it
both his
very interesting.
son. One's
Yeah.
Stephanie and one's Shane.
That yeah, it's fascinating. Like it can go either way. Rich, what do you think?
Well, I don't really care about this match. I don't believe that I will say this. There's a lot of matches I said that don't belong on the WrestleMania card. I kind of would say this match, I would say it doesn't belong on the WrestleMania card. However, it's not as bad as the others because of the fact that yes, Pat McAfee did impress with his NXT match. So there is some intrigue there, but I really don't care about Austin Theory. I know Vince, this is the next person he wants to make, and I wish him well in that endeavor. But to be quite honest, I'm not really sold. When they put Austin Theory in title matches like they've been doing the last couple months, it's like, come on now. This doesn't
Right.
make any kind of sense. So, in my opinion, don't really care about the match. In terms of is going to win the match, I really don't give a damn who wins the match. Um, Austin Theory, obviously, I feel is the one that they're invested in. So Pat McAfee is probably going to take the L in this. But yeah, overall, not really a match I care about. But but hey, it'll probably be more entertaining than the matches that I really don't give a damn about. So we'll see what happens.
Rich with the controversial take.
Yes.
As always, yeah. Yeah, no, I felt that as far as like the indifference to it because this was another match where it was like this is something that you could probably see on NXT and not on WrestleMania, you know. But they've got to fill out the card somehow, and Vince wants his adopted son on there, or adopted sons, as Dana would put it. So that's what we have. Let's go to the triple threat tag team match for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship. We've got the defending champion RK Bro, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. I don't know why he still does Riddle. It's Matt Riddle. Defending against the Street Profits, Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford, and the Alpha Academy, Chad Gable and Otis. Rich, would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah, I'll go first. Controversial opinion.
Uh-oh.
This could have been a Raw match instead. I will say this, though. I'm glad that Alpha Academy is getting an opportunity to shine, because they've been building for a while with that team. So I'm glad that they're going to get to have a WrestleMania match. I'm totally fine with that. Street Profits, I'm a little tired of the Street Profits. I want them to split these guys, because I know they obviously have a goal for Montez Ford to whatever they're going to do with him. So that needs to start to happen sooner or later. And finally, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle, or Riddle, whatever the hell you want to call him, because Vince decides to shorten everybody's name these days. That needs that team. It's been a great ride for both of them, but sooner or later it has to end. Much like we've spoken about earlier in this show, Dominic and Ray, that definitely needs to happen. This also needs to happen. The split that we know is coming at some point. Now, I thought it was supposed to happen before WrestleMania, and that they were going to have a match at WrestleMania. That probably would have been a lot more enjoyable. But again, it may not happen on this show. It might happen on the WrestleMania after. I mean, I have no idea. But in terms of who I think is going to win the match, I don't know. That's kind of tough. I think that they're going to retain. At least I would hope that they retain. Either they retain or Alpha Academy wins. But I definitely want this experiment with the Street Profits to come to an end at some point. Because my thought is that WWE needs to focus on building up the talent on this roster. You got rid of a lot of people in the last couple of years, and you have not really established a lot of stars. Yes, they're trying to do something with Austin Theory now. That's great. But there's other people you need to also be focused on. And if they truly are behind Montez Ford as somebody who is going to be a future star, then they need to start building soon, because this guy is in his 30s now. So I would hope that that's going to happen at some point. It might not happen on this show, but it definitely needs to happen. I think as this year comes to a close, they need to start taking a look at what they're going to do with this guy long term. So we'll see.
I'm gonna go next. I'm gonna disagree with you on the Street Profits. Now, I will agree with you in that I am tired of them, because I felt like they've been overexposed, and they have been since, like, I'd say at least since the pandemic. They were on TV all the time. When you were getting them talking backstage and being cringe all the time, and then you just having them having matches. They had a match on every single Raw, and I just got tired of them. Obviously, Montez Ford is the charismatic one of that pair. He's the one with the most promise, the most upside. Angelo Dawkins is there longer, and it felt like he was just kind of treading water until he paired up with Montez Ford. They've been a good tag team. They can't split them, and the reason why I say that is because then Angelo Dawkins becomes dead weight. He will get lost in the shuffle. He will be Marty Jannetty, and that's not good for him. And that's not to say that. That's not to say. I'm sorry, Dana. I know you're like, oh, I don't know about that, but these are facts, okay? Angelo Dawkins, much credit to him for being with WWE for this long and all that, but it was him working with Montez Ford that has allowed him to make it onto the main roster and to have this nice, good career. And good on him. He's playing his role really well. I don't see them backing him as a singles competitor. Montez Ford, absolutely. So I just think it's one of those things is that once that split happens, Ford gets the rocket and Dawkins gets the door. And that's I don't think they're ready to do that because let's be honest, the tag division is a joke and they need more established tag teams, not less. So let's not split them up just yet. I know that we're sick of them, but let's not split them up just yet, in my opinion. As far as the rest of this card goes, I hated when they turned Otis heel. And part of that because I thought that Heavy Machinery was a very promising tag team. And I guess they just didn't like Tucker and they just got rid of him and everything. This goes to my point about Angelo. You got to keep them together because I don't trust them once they split these teams up, man. It's just how it is. I liked Otis's babyface character. It was ridiculous, but he was a throwback to those 80s, 90s types of over-the-top bushwhacker style characters. And now they've made him into this like just generic angry heel thing. And he does his role well too. He's very good at playing characters and what have you. It's not as good as the other Otis, in my opinion. So, but good on Chad Gable that he has something to do. He's tagged up with Otis. They're a good team together. They've won a tag belts recently, right? Was it the Raw ones or the SmackDown ones? Could you guys remind me?
Raw. They did win the Raw belts. Yeah.
Okay. So had they not won that before, I would think it'd be a good opportunity now to give them that. But because they've already done that and they've gone away from that just as fast, I think RK Bro retains and they continue that. I mean, those two are obviously going to split. And at some point, I don't think it's going to be Mania or even right after Mania. We're talking later on this year, if that. But RK Bro's got to retain on this. And I'll be interested once that split happens if they decide to make Riddle be the one that makes the split happen, make him the heel. Because everyone's expecting Orton to do that. You know what I mean? But that's if WWE feels like being creative. And we know it's kind of a 50-50 thing on that. So I'm done rambling here. Randy Orton and Matt Riddle retained. Dana, let's hear your thoughts. You've heard us talk a lot here.
I'm going to go with the retain because, again, Street Profits are just floundering. They're not going anywhere. Alpha Academy is forgiven. And Randy super over. Like, it doesn't make any sense how over they are. So I think they retain.
Yeah, you got something good going. Why change it? So okay, straight to the point. I respect that. Anything else before we move on to the next match? We've got 3 left. Let's move on then. Okay. Singles match, Edge versus AJ Styles. I'm actually really looking forward to this one. This is one that's the Edge himself has looked forward to since coming back from retirement. And I'm glad that they're making this happen. I'm glad they're making it happen at WrestleMania. I have a friend of mine who wishes that it was Edge against Cody Rhodes because of the history that those two have together. But I feel like that's something for more further down the line if Cody is to come to WWE. I don't think that you blow that load as the first match coming back. You know what I mean? That's just doesn't make sense to me. So sorry, Jeff. I'm going to disagree with you on that if you're listening. But yes, Edge versus AJ Styles. I'm going to say this. I don't understand why they have to turn Edge heel every time. They turned him heel last year going into WrestleMania. They turned him again heel again this time. I don't understand why they have to do that. He's pretty over, and like they could have just kept like I know that AJ Styles and Omas split up. We all knew that was going to happen, but they didn't have to turn Styles face the process and make Edge as a clear heel. They could have had two baby faces facing each other here. Like it's just a thing of respect, or have Edge turn heel during the match instead of doing it beforehand. You know what I mean? Like have it start out as a respectful thing and have Edge be like, I'm not losing to this sucker, and down to concerto his ass, that kind of thing. Do something like that instead of trying to be like, oh, we want you to boo him. Good luck with that. Edge is gonna get cheered. But goodness, I was actually thinking about, since it's funny because we had just came off the prediction of a match involving Randy Orton, and now talking about AJ Styles. At this WrestleMania, we had Randy Orton versus AJ Styles. I cannot remember for the life of me which one was the babyface and which one was the heel in that match. I can't. I don't know if you guys remember. Orton versus AJ, WrestleMania 35. I honest to God cannot remember who was the face and who was the heel. They've both changed so many times, it's hard to keep up. So why keep doing that? Like, people want to root for Edge. They want to root for AJ Styles. Just have them both be baby faces going into this. I don't understand why it's like there clearly has to be a good guy and a bad guy. Not always. Not always have to do that. I mean, you even, and I'm rambling here, but that's what we do on the WrestleCast. We ramble for days. We had a heel versus heel match just at Royal Rumble between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and I loved it. Because then it was like, well, who are the fans going to back? That makes it very interesting, and I think the fans tend to back Seth Rollins during that. But it shows that you can make it work depending on who the participants are. I think we see that in AEW sometimes where you get heels versus heel. And it's like, okay, well, someone's going to be the babyface in this, and fans will decide that. Edge and AJ will be a fantastic match. I think we all know that. And it's just a matter of who are they pushing to come out on top here. And is this something that's going to extend beyond WrestleMania? Those are things that I want us to think about. Is this meant to be just a one-time thing for WrestleMania, or is there a program involved? Given their history, I think this is going to be a program. And they're going to start that program with Edge winning this match. And, Edge will go desperate, he'll go desperate and he'll cheat or whatever. I see Rich cracking up over there. But that's how I think that this is going to play out. Like we're not going to see. This is not going to be the end of this. But I'm going to say Edge takes this. Gets the win here. Dana, can you please give us your thoughts? Cannot hear you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I don't see this being a one-off. I do see this being Richard is literally like cracking up over I don't see this being a one-off. I do see this being something that is carried throughout. And what's next? Backlash, I think, is next. So definitely probably have a match at Backlash. But for this right now, I see Edge winning. Edge needs to win. Remember, he came back and then had that whole neck situation that happened, or he broke something and he was away for a while and then he came back. I think he needs a win with this. AJ Styles has been pretty okay in terms of his body and not being injured. And plus, here's the thing: everyone really loves working with AJ Styles, which is why Undertaker wanted his last match to be with AJ Styles because he's a very safe wrestler. And I think that that will have the longevity of other people wrestling who are much older and suffered a lot of broken necks and injuries. So I see AJ Styles kind of not winning this, and Edge needs it right now. He's been gone for a while, and then he came back, and then things were just janky. So I would like him to win.
Okay. Very entertaining takes. I enjoy. I agree with a lot that what has been said. However, I'm going to go in a different direction. I think AJ Styles wins this match. Now, I think the point that Ricky made, which I agree 100% with, Edge should have turned heel in the match because it doesn't make sense for him to all of a sudden turn heel. Like he introduces, I need an opponent for WrestleMania. And then AJ Styles comes out and immediately low blows AJ Styles. Come on now. That's a little extreme. But I laugh at how quick he just like that turns on this guy. That was pretty comical. But I personally think that AJ Styles, and to go to Dana's point, he had a great match with The Undertaker, right? I think AJ Styles needs to get that win back, and I think he gets it back at WrestleMania. And the thing is that because of the way they fast track this Edge heel turn, it kind of makes me feel like this could be a one-off. It shouldn't be a one-off, but I just don't see the need to turn him a heel that fast when you could have waited during the match. Then that would lead to, okay, we didn't settle our differences. Now we need to have another match. I mean, but again, we'll see what happens because I think y'all both made great points that Edge needs a win as well. I just kind of feel like with AJ Styles, this guy is a babyface right now, and they're painting this picture that he needs to get payback on Edge because of that attack and just because of all the other stuff that's happening. So I kind of feel like AJ Styles needs to win. And I will also add this. There was a very important match that took place on Raw a couple of weeks ago between Seth Rollins and AJ Styles. And the stipulation was that if, Seth Rollins won the match, then he would take AJ Styles' place and fight the Edge at WrestleMania. Well, Edge interfered in that match and beat up AJ Styles. So again, they're telling the story that AJ Styles needs to get payback on Edge. That's why I think he's going to win the match at WrestleMania. That's just my opinion.
Interesting. Very interesting. I'm still laughing about your reactions to the takes and everything.
Oh yeah,
I agree with you that Edge just suddenly being like, "Oh, AJ, you're my opponent. Awesome." Boom, was stupid. It made no sense.
It made no sense.
Like it was almost as if he's like, "Wait a minute, like you're a face? Okay, I guess I got to be heel now." Boom, like, because it doesn't make sense to me because it's just like it'd be one thing if it was like Randy Orton as the opponent because it's like, oh, we have history. Oh, yeah. It's you, Randy. Oh, I owe you one. I owe you, that kind of thing. But AJ's like, they never fought each other before. And he's just going to like concerto the guy and low blow him and all that. For what?
Hey, because he wants to really sell that this match this has to happen, but it can't be a regular match. It got to be brutal. It got to be all this other stuff. But I will say this. WWE is very intentional when they do this thing because I recall when Edge was going to call out somebody, even at that point, people were like, oh, it's got to be Cody, right? It's going to be Cody. So they were very intentional with this surprise of holding off as to who it was when it was very clear to me it was going to be AJ Styles. That was very clear that was going to be his opponent. So, but yeah, they try to make you believe it could be someone else. It's not going to work. So we'll see what happens.
Anything else before we move on?
Oh yeah, last point. This is a match that definitely should be on the card. So just so you know, there are some matches I think should be on the card. This 100% is a WrestleMania match. So yeah, good choice.
I would say like another controversial take by Rich. Hot take.
No.
This belongs on the card. Wow. Here's one that definitely does not belong on the card. This is Bobby Lashley against Omas. Why is this match happening?
Okay. Can I go first on this one?
Please do.
No one cares about this match. I know this is a match for Bobby Lashley returning from injury, although I do think it was a very ridiculous way that they took him out of the match with Brock Lesnar, and now he returns, and now he's facing another opponent. I think personally, it would have been better for Bobby Lashley to show up in the Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns match and have Brock Lesnar lose that match. That would have made more sense, because look who benefited from him losing the title, Brock Lesnar. But again, this is WWE, and there is no such thing as a logical common sense. So I don't really care who wins this match. Almas has been looked upon as a monster that is unstoppable, right? A lot of people think this is the recruitment of the whatchamacallit. What's the faction? They believe that Bobby Lashley is going to recruit this guy to
Hurt Business.
The Hurt Business. But Bobby Lashley is, I guess, a face in this match. I mean, I have no idea, but that's why I say I don't care, because there's no build to it whatsoever. In terms of who I think is going to win, that's a great question. I think Almas should win, because if Bobby Lashley wins, I mean, that's it for Almas, right? Because you built him up as a monster. So I think it feels like when he loses the match, that's a big deal. He probably needs to, take some time off after that, I guess. I mean, I have no idea, but I don't really care about the match. But if I had to pick a winner, I'm going to probably say Almas is going to win the match.
Do you want to go next, Dana, or do you want me?
It's completely. Okay.
I'll go. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder when I say this. I think it depends on Lashley's health. That if he's not 100%, if he's just going to just do this match, then it makes sense to have Omas write Lashley off of TV. But if Lashley can continue beyond WrestleMania, you got to have Lashley win, because he's the guy that was just the WWE champion just a few months ago. And you're going to have Omas beat him all of a sudden? Doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to assume health here and that Lashley wins. But it can go either way. Again, it all depends on what their plan is. Is this to have Omas take Lashley out and be like, oh, watch out for this guy? He's really tall, and that's the only thing that he can do is be really tall. But I'll say Lashley wins. Dana, please. I interrupted you. I apologize.
I say, ready for this? This might be a shocker. The black guy wins. I know.
Wow.
It's genius, right? It's something
really
you would have. It's something you would have never thought of. We're all concerned about, is Cody coming back? Is he not? Is Stone Cold going to wrestle? No. The black guy wins.
Not even just a black guy, the big black guy wins.
The big black guy wins. I mean, my gosh. There you go. There you have it. I take a bow. Thank you. But here's the thing: if we're gonna be technical in this, I understand what you're saying with the injury. I like that idea. Like, how injured is he? Is this like a one and done, and then we're gonna go away for I don't know and get some surgeries and do that? But if you give him the way, I hate how what they did with Bobby Lashley during that super Dubai match. It just didn't make any sense. If he was injured, why are we flying him out to Dubai? Was it in Dubai? I forgot.
It was Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia.
He got injured and they flew him back. They said it was concussion, but that's kayfabe. It wasn't actually a concussion. It was like, what was it, like a knee injury or something? I forget what it was.
One of the injuries, but I was wondering if he was injured before he did the whole match. I'm like, you flew him all the way down there just to fly him back again?
Oh, you mean he was
Waste of
injured going to
time.
Saudi Arabia and then
No, I
it just
thought he was
aggravated?
injured before Saudi Arabia.
No, the
Like
injury
they knew
happened
they
at
had to
Saudi
take him
Arabia.
out.
Mhm.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, the
yeah.
injury happened at
Oh,
Saudi Arabia. Mhm.
well, Bobby Lashley, either way, he got the short end of the stick with that whole situation there, and then they covered it up with that weird concussion storyline. So to have him back, I don't like him either way, but y'all do. So to have him back, I think he needs to win this one, unless again it's an injury that's aggravated. But yeah, he needs to win this one. He's the big bad guy from before, and a lot of people really like him. And it would just make more sense. And almost Amos, whatever, him, he's not really good yet. And
Right.
he's not good at all. And I don't know how long this match is even going to be. It's just like and then we're done situation. But Bobby, as much as I don't like him, is obviously the better of the two. And he's been away because of that injury, and he got cheated out. We got cheated out of a good something between Brock and Bobby, even if it was to be like some
Yeah.
weird squash thing, which they are known to do. It was kind of really interesting to see Bobby and Brock go head to head. So yeah, Bobby wins.
I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
Rich.
make one last comment, and this ties into the discussion we're about to get into. And y'all can answer this question. I'm just going to give my opinion. I think it was a very dumb idea to basically take the Raw title away, not being defended at all, take it away from Raw, and now you have this unified title match because, and I mean, it just shows a lack of common sense because even if you do that, then you definitely should have the U.S. title being defended on this show because it looks like Raw has no title whatsoever except for the tag titles and the women's title. And I think that's some BS. But we'll get into the discussion about the main event shortly.
Yeah, I was gonna say with as far as Omas, it's like it seems like he is a filler opponent, but is he? Because it's like Lashley probably doesn't face Omas if he doesn't get injured.
Yeah.
But are they seeing this as an opportunity to push Omas, or is this a filler? That's going to determine how the match turns out, and that's why it's hard to kind of predict because it's like because you could see it go either way. You could see it as like if they're like, okay, let's take advantage of Lashley getting injured. We're going to use this as an opportunity to make Omos look like even more of a monster. Do they care enough about Omos to do that? That's the question. I don't think they should because he's still got a lot of work to do. He should have stayed in NXT, but they're impatient. And sometimes it works out, like with Braun Strowman, and sometimes it doesn't. But we'll see. I'm gonna say I'm gonna assume Lashley is healthy enough to continue and he will win. But if he's not, if Omos wins, it's because he's not, and it's because they're writing him off TV. That's the only thing that makes sense here. That's the only thing that makes sense because Omos has not been built up enough to be like a world title contender. And to beat Lashley, you got to be a world title contender because Lashley's been built up for the last 2 years as this monster. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But talking about monsters, we've got this monster main event to close out WrestleMania that they're hyping up as the most important match of all time, the biggest match of all time, whatever. It's a winners take all match to unify the WWE and Universal Championship. As we've just heard from our own Richard Bailey Jr., he is not a fan of the idea of unifying the belts. I'm actually a fan of the idea, and I'll get into that in a bit. And I want to hear what Dana thinks about that, of course. But in this match, we have Brock Lesnar, who is the WWE champion, going up against Roman Reigns, who is the Universal champion, with Paul Heyman at ringside. This is a match long in the making. It's happened before, but never like this in this situation. I mean, we had a pay-per-view recently where the two fought, I believe, but not both as champion and not in this situation. There's a lot to unpack here. So I would like to hear from you guys before I do my part on it. You guys, whichever one you want to go first, you can go right ahead and take as much time as you need because we got a lot to unpack on this one.
Should I go first, or Dana, you want to go first? Okay.
All right, the floor is yours.
Now, let me start by saying what I said earlier. Now, I understand WWE thinking, you want to make this a major event, so you have two major titles on the line in a unified match, champion versus champion. I get that. And as far as from that standpoint, it's totally fine to go on that decision. The problem is, though, that I think with Monday Night Raw in particular, there is no real champion right now. Brock Lesnar has a track record of having these matches and then leaving and taking a break. So that's why I kind of feel like that plays into this as well. But at the same time, Roman Reigns, it has been reported that he wants to also take a break at some point. Don't know when that's going to happen. So we'll see about the prediction. But I just want to say this. If they were going to have this title versus title matchup, and maybe perhaps this is something that's going to happen on Raw, I personally think they need to have a tournament where they determine who is going to become the next champion on Monday Night Raw, or whatever the new belt is that is going to be on that show, whether it's Raw or SmackDown. They need to have a tournament to determine who is going to be the next person, because we already know when you have a tournament, people will watch that. It has been on AEW, and that actually is a great way to pull viewers in. And for it to happen on the Raw after WrestleMania, where there are surprises, that 100% needs to happen. So if it doesn't happen, then WWE just don't get it, because I just think it's very silly to not have representation of a world champion defending a title, but only having this champion versus champion thing. It's a little ridiculous. So now to get into the prediction of who I think is going to win it, I personally think that Roman Reigns is going to win the match. I think the Usos will lose earlier in the evening, and it will be doubt put in out there that Roman Reigns is going to lose. But again, Paul Heyman is still there. And the thing about it is that, again, Brock Lesnar, he is the person that he has his big payday, right? So he can leave after this and take a break. There's no way in hell you can expect to see him on every single Raw after this, or SmackDown, whatever the hell. So I personally think Roman Reigns wins it, and then he'll probably get his match with Drew McIntyre next. But it will help to continue to build up Roman Reigns as the guy who was pretty much leading the charge on SmackDown. And just remember how much of more of an ego he's going to have after he finally beats Brock Lesnar and he has both titles unified into one new title. And then at that point, I don't know when he's going to take his break, whatever. But I mean, only because of Brock Lesnar's history, with the fact that he has these matches and leaves, I can't see him winning unless he wins and he's going to vacate the title the next night or something like that. But I think Roman Reigns is going to win the match if I had to make a guess right now. So now it's Dana's turn.
Go ahead, Dana.
I'm actually looking forward to this, just in general, to see how they handle the unified title, just because it's slightly confusing to me. I don't get it. Here's the thing. I really want Brock to win, just because I like Happy Brock. He's hilarious. Um, and I don't want him to leave. I like this version. And it would just be even more funnier if he won and he's rubbing it in Roman's face. The thing with this is, I feel that Paul Heyman is the loose card here. We don't know what's going to happen with him. And remember, they had that whole situation with him flipping and flopping about as to who is going to be the person he advocates for. I remember it was originally Brock Lesnar, and then it became Roman Reigns, and it was the flip flop back and forth. I think he is going to sabotage something in this match. and he will probably go back to Brock. Brock obviously doesn't need him because what's the point? We have Brock, and I like Happy Brock right now. But at the same time, I don't trust Paul Heyman. And he just signed his new deal, I think, for 3 years, 3 more years. So they're going to have him do something, hopefully. And with that said, I think that he may do something where it's him going against Roman Reigns and going back to Brock Lesnar. And I would appreciate that because I want Brock to win. And I'm slightly tired of Roman Reigns. And he's finally a heel. I don't want him to be a face, and he's really good right now at where he's at in the position with the whole acknowledge me and everything else. But that could be a great way to shake things up and him to be by himself. And then also the Usos. Remember they put in kind of, I think earlier this year or last year, Roman Reigns put the Usos in like the ringer. Remember? And then they brought down their father and he got involved with the whole acknowledge me. What happens if it's actually the Usos who turn against him? That would be really great. And then you have, like, I don't know if the father wants to come back, have him come storming in the ring and be like, ah, and have that whole situation, my boys. But I would really like it to be Brock, and then something happens with Roman in regards to Heyman or the Usos. If they leave him, that would be really great. I would appreciate that, and then we have something new for him to go on and be like, there's no family left for him. They all abandoned him, and he lost his title. So we can still keep him a heel, just figure something out with him.
They're both very interesting takes, and it's definitely influenced what I'm about to say. Because I've probably changed my mind a few times on how this is going to play out. And here's how I see it now. When I predicted the Usos earlier to drop their tag belts, part of it was like, yes, we're tired of seeing the Usos all the time, and let's give another team a shot. But it was also with the idea of the bloodline falling apart, and the idea would be that the Usos would be the first sign of it falling apart, that they drop the belts, and it's almost like an omen that Roman's going to drop the belt. And when I made the prediction of the Usos dropping it, it was with the idea that Roman would also drop, and that the bloodline would go 0-2 at this Mania. But I have since changed my mind on that, and I'm going to tell you why. They have built this story up for quite a while now. And as you remember Roman saying at the beginning of his heel run in an interview, he said, let the steak sizzle. And the steak is sizzling for sure. And as The Rock would say, you can smell it. Now, that's a match for another year. But while we're in this year, you have this match that's being built up as the biggest match in history. They're going to unify the belts. Winner take all. You got the two strongest booked guys in this era. Like, let's say that from the moment that Cena stopped getting the WWE Championship and he was just getting the United States Championship and then transitioned to Hollywood. We're going to call that the beginning of Roman's time and Brock's time as the top guys. They are the two strongest booked guys in this era by far. And they're going against each other in a winner take all. The question is, who is the long-term benefactor here? Brock had that time where he squashed John Cena. He got that build up. He got his moment. Brock is being built up to be fed to Roman. Roman is the guy that they're going to give the rub to here. Because I thought originally, like Brock Lesnar, we're getting heel Roman, face Brock. Happy Brock is fun to see. We love to see it and everything. But Brock, not only had Brock with squash Cena, he ended Undertaker's streak. He's gotten all the rubs, okay? Factor in that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this will be the third WrestleMania match between these two. Okay? In the first one, Roman lost. He got pinned, but he got pinned by Seth Rollins, who cashed in. So Roman lost that one. The second one, Roman lost. He lost to Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar famously threw the belt at Vince McMahon in the Gorilla afterwards. Roman's not losing again. Okay? If you remember another trilogy between the two biggest stars of their generation, Austin against The Rock. Austin won the first two. Who won the third one? The Rock. This is Roman's time to get the rub. And what you have here is like, I'm not sure exactly why they're going to unify the belts. I'm okay with it. I'm not sure what their end game is there. But the idea of like, because I could have seen it being like a double champion thing, and you could see Roman at the end holding up two belts, king of all the tables, or I'm the end of all tables. I don't know what the hell he'll call himself, but them pushing Roman to the very top is what's best for business when it comes to WWE. He is that guy. And so I think Roman's going to win this. He will still fall. The bloodline will fall. It's just the Usos will be the first sign of it falling apart, but it's not going to all fall apart overnight. What will happen is the Usos lose the belts, Roman retains, but then Roman goes after the Usos, at the next SmackDown. You guys lost, and like, what the hell? We all have to be champions. I can't do it all by myself, or that kind of thing, and that will begin the Usos starting to turn against Roman, with him putting the pressure on them, and them failing to regain the belts. That's going to start that, and that will work its way through SummerSlam or Survivor Series or whatever. Later on this year, that's when they'll split up or something. But for now, I mean, I was originally going to go with Brock, because I thought, I can't think of anyone else that they would give the rub to against Roman. And to be honest with you, I still can't. And I talked about The Rock and Roman as next year's WrestleMania, I don't think that Roman will be champion by then. I think he'll drop it by then. I don't know who it'll be to. That's a match that doesn't need a belt. That's a match that draws on its own, just on the names of the two people involved. I don't know who they give that rub to. Maybe they give it to Brock later on, but I think that for WrestleMania, they gotta give Roman the win, and it'll be like, holy shit, no one can stop this guy. That's what they want. They have said prior to, I want to say this was either prior to him winning the Universal Championship 2 years ago. I can't believe it's almost been 2 years there. That I don't know if it was Meltzer or someone else said that they are going to give him the biggest push that we've seen in the longest time. Like, he's going to hold the belt for more than a year, that kind of thing. And that was no lie. It's what we're seeing. He is getting pushed to holy hell. And this, like, here's the thing. Roman's held the Universal Championship for a long time. Brock just got the WWE Championship, and only because they were no longer going to give it to Big E, or because Roman had to take Roman couldn't be in the Roman couldn't be in the day one, couldn't participate in day one, so they put Brock in it and changed all that. I still hate talking about that, because Big E could have gone into this WrestleMania as champion. It's a dark timeline we're living in here, but they gave it to Brock because I don't think Brock was the intended guy to be the one on the top at the end of this WrestleMania. Roman's the guy that's to be on top. Roman needs to get the win against Brock because he hasn't done it yet at WrestleMania. So he's my pick to win this. I have no idea who gets the rub from him later on, but I don't think even WWE is worrying about that right now. Right now, they're worried about how this WrestleMania is going to close out. That's how I see it. I don't know. What do you guys have? What do you guys have any thoughts on that? Anything that you disagree with or agree with? Anything?
I just want to say, I think that was a very well thought out explanation. It makes a lot of sense. And I also think that Dana also made sense as well. So I'm very curious to see which one of y'all will be correct.
Heyman will definitely play a big role in this.
Yeah.
He's central to this whole thing. He has a long history with both sides. And something that I definitely want to mention before we go off the air. I wanted to see the double turn happen. What was it? 4 years ago when this was in New Orleans. Okay,
Yeah.
like when Brock was the heel champion and Roman was the babyface that people were booing because they still couldn't stand him. It made sense for Paul Heyman to gravitate to Roman, do the double turn, have him be the heel and all that stuff. And we're getting that now, and it's excellent. But it's like, man, like it's just. I'm kind of still in disbelief, to be honest, because it's like this is fantasy booking that's actually happening. You know what I mean? Heyman being with Roman against Brock Lesnar. It's excellent. And so it's the first time I'm looking forward to a Brock Lesnar Roman Reigns main event. So good job, WWE. You actually got me invested there. But yeah, only one, and this is going to be cheesy of me, only one can hold this. The replica championship. No. I do actually want to talk about that real quickly, the unifying part. I don't know why they're doing that. But I'm not against it because Triple H said before, and this was prior to the when they did the brand split again and the draft in 2016, all that. I think this was when, what was it? When Daniel Bryan and Randy Orton were feuding over the championship when they had both belts. They eventually got rid of the big gold, and Triple H said, there's only one spot on the top. There's not two. So there should be one belt for being on the top. You know, like there's one number one. And I agreed with that. And once they did the brand split, it's like, okay, that's when you remember John Moxley, who was, Dean Ambrose, whatever, was the WWE champion. And he was, what was it? They did the draft and he went to SmackDown. And it's like, oh, well, Raw doesn't have a champion. Well, we're just going to create a new belt. We're going to call it the Universal Championship. And that's going to be Raw's World Championship. And I've never been for having two world champions. Like even when the big gold was treated as a heavyweight world championship, I saw it as the number 2 belt. Like the WWE championship, the original championship, that's the number 1. That's always the number 1. Punk has even said that when he was champion and Sheamus was world heavyweight champion, he said, you have the number 2 belt. I have the actual number 1. And he's right. He was right. Punk was right. The WWE championship is the flagship belt. That's the number 1 belt in the company. It should be treated as such, not one that was just invented a few years ago. And so even if you have Raw and SmackDown as separate brands and you have champions separate brands, there should only be one number 1 at the very top when it comes to the main event. You could have that champion go between both shows. And so, but I'm of the mind that there's already too many belts and they should have even less because it makes it more prestigious. You have the United States and Intercontinental Championship, neither of them being defended on WrestleMania, and we can all agree that's atrocious. That's atrocious, but you're going to have Johnny Knoxville and Sami Zayn take time. You're going to have Bobby Lashley and Omas take time. But you can't have the mid-card champions, the work rate championship belts defended. That's bullshit, especially with the Intercontinental Championship, which is the original Workers' Championship belt. A lot of the greatest wrestlers ever held that championship and had some of the best matches in WrestleMania history. And we're not going to see Ricochet get to defend that on there. That's a load of bullshit. So I feel like if you're going to fire 70% of the roster, why even have a brand split?
Yep.
Just have everyone on both shows at this point. Have one main champion. You have one mid-card champion. You have one tag team championship, one women's championship, and that's it. You don't need any 24/7. Is that still a thing, the 24/7 championship?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Jesus.
It is. It's still being defended.
Get rid of that and reduce the amount of championship belts you have. It should be harder to be champion. It should mean more to be a champion, and you should see the champion on every show. That's how you prop it up. Now that if you have it so that you have the WWE Championship and the number 2 belt is the Intercontinental Championship, the Intercontinental Championship is now going to be fought after by a lot of people who could otherwise go after the WWE Championship.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Instead of them going after the Universal Championship. That's why I am totally for unifying if they're going to do that across the board. Retire the United States Championship. It was a beautiful championship until they uglied it up a couple of years ago.
Oh.
But it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's a mid-card belt that they have no respect for. They're not even featuring it on WrestleMania, on a 2-night WrestleMania, mind you. Get rid of it.
So, no, I agree. I want to make a quick comment, but I'm going to wait for you to finish first.
No, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
I just want to say this: if the goal is for this title to be a floating belt that can be defended on both shows, that's excellent. They need to do that. I also want to add, though, I would not be surprised if the plan to unify this belt leads to a somewhat of a customized world title, because I recall as we were growing up, and Dana as well, The Rock had his own belt. Steve Austin had his own belt, the Smoke and Skull belt. So I'm wondering, are they going to give Roman Reigns a similar belt of his custom design?
A tribal chief belt. That'd be great.
Yes. Yeah. Because I'm thinking that will really solidify that this guy is, on the same level of these other 2 legends. And that will add a little bit more to it. But I don't know. I have no idea. But I thought about that as you were talking, because, yeah, it makes sense to make it more personalized for him, but I don't know what that means once he loses the belt. So,
it gets changed up again, like the same way when Rock lost it or when Austin lost it, it got changed up. But it makes sense that you have like a personalized main championship, because that's like saying, this is my era. Yes. I own this, and if that's what they're doing with Roman, then that's a logical thing to do. Because right now you're looking at 2 belts that look like huge belt buckles, and they both look exactly the same. They're not distinctive, right?
Yep.
We all love the Big Eagle. That was synonymous with that era in the early '90s and what have you. I still remember the Attitude Era WWE Championship, WWF Championship, I'll say, and that and it was great. I'm not a fan of the spinner, but it was Cena's trademark. It was his belt. It was his era. If Roman is that guy, you make a belt that reflects that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what they do. And that's assuming Roman's the guy that wins it. It could be Brock. It could go that way too. I mean, I just don't think they're ready to tell that story yet with Roman, because Roman's going to have a meltdown when he loses, and it's going to be a fantastic thing to see. I just don't think they're ready to do it just yet. I think they're going to give us hints of it before it happens. And that's why I think the Usos losing first is going to be part of that, because the Usos lose, Roman retains, Roman tries to coach the Usos back into winning. They fall apart and fail. Roman starts to doubt himself, and eventually he loses and loses the belt and loses his composure. And that would be awesome to see whenever that happens. But I think it happens this year. I just don't know when. I just don't think it'll be this weekend. But we'll see. Because Heyman's gonna be part of that too,
Oh yeah, like Dana said, Heyman. Yep.
It's gonna all fall apart. I just think it's too soon for it to happen, which is crazy to say because he's held the belt for forever. But yeah, we'll see. I hope this means that they're gonna go in a very good direction with how they treat with these belts and unify more belts, because there's too many. There's too many, and they're still not featuring all of them on the pay-per-view, which is a shame, but that is what it is. Okay, well, we're almost 3 hours in, and we've gone through all the predictions. This was very fun. Hopefully the pay-per-view will be just as fun. I know that we have Stand and Deliver tomorrow or later today, and then we start WrestleMania for 2 nights. Enjoy wrestling, enjoy it as much as you can, and we'll see if there's any surprises. And don't forget the Raw after WrestleMania. We'll see if it's special again, because it hasn't been for quite a while. So let's see if they deliver on that. But you guys, do you have any closing thoughts that you want to share?
Dana.
Oh, Dana, go ahead.
Why is me that is being the
ladies first? Ladies first.
No, just thank you for listening to us, and we'll be back with other predictions, next year.
Okay, Rich.
Yeah, thanks for the continued support, checking out all the content. So looking forward to sharing more thoughts on other things in the future.
Yeah, and also just remember, in general, it's WrestleCon week. It's Wrestle everything this weekend. So watch NXT. Remember, there's the GCW. That's happening. We did ROH. We watched that. You have the Hall of Fame. You can catch that on demand. Again, you have the NXT that's coming. I said NXT already, but there's a lot of things going down. We have Bray Wyatt. Maybe somebody surprised somewhere. Remember, he's floating around. We don't know what's going on with him. And we have a whole bunch of other wrestlers that are indie talent just as well, and they're just as good. And so just watch everyone's shows. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan right now.
Absolutely. It is best time of the year as a wrestling fan, with WrestleMania, all the events happening around WrestleMania weekend, all the stuff, what's going to be, what's next after WrestleMania, all that stuff. It's going to be very interesting to see. I don't mean to brag, but I'm going to Dynamite coming up in Boston this coming Wednesday.
Really?
So wait a second. You get to see Joe.
Samoa.
Oh, that's right. Yes, this is even better. Oh man, I just realized
Suzuki.
that. Yes, hell yeah,
you get Ring of Honor.
I get Ring of Honor. Oh, this is, yeah. I mean,
I'm jealous.
Yes, this is a good time. Very good time. So yeah, like I said, enjoy wrestling. There's lots of it. Lots more to come. Thank you, as always, to our listeners and viewers for watching our show, supporting the Koalition, all the great people who help run it, all the content that we provide. We do it for you. Thank you very much. Obviously you, Dana, and Rich, you guys are amazing as always. Thank you guys for being great co-hosts as well. We'll do it again at some point. Who knows when that will be? But we definitely know that we'll do the WrestleCast for WrestleMania next year. As always, maybe we'll do it on location in Los Angeles. We'll see. That would be quite something, huh? But let's save our pennies for that. But anyway, I'm gonna close this out. We're again almost at 3 hours. Thanks again very much, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.